Everybody, this is Hondo Carpenter, your Sports Illustrated beat writer covering the Las Vegas Raiders and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. It is great to be with you. 9 days now, 9 days away from training camp. We are down to single digits. Thank God the long lost nightmare, the wandering in the wilderness of no football, no NFL football is almost over. Super excited for the season to get going. And now we bring in my very dear friend. He is the editor and publisher of thespun.com, the absolute best website for pop culture meets sports in all of sports. It's in my favorites. It should be in yours. I read it every day. You know him already, the great Matt Holadik. Matt, how you doing, friend?
I'm doing great. I can't believe that it's less than 10 days, less than 2 weeks to training camps. It's crazy. It's just time flies.
I literally, and this is zero hyperbole. It literally feels like yesterday when I walked back into my room, my office, and sat down and said, all right, the season's over.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went right into playoffs and Super Bowl, right into, of course, preparation for the draft, the combine, the draft. And then I like, okay, great, rest. I remember coming home from the draft and sitting down after 3 days of just pounding it out and thinking, all right, now a break. And then bam, uh, it's already here. And I'm excited. That's not a complaint. I'm excited. The popularity of the NFL, Matt, just continues to blow up. We're going to talk about the Raiders in just a second at length, by the way. But the popularity of the NFL just never ceases to amaze me how big it is. Does it you?
No, it's just, and like we've said on here numerous times, it's a year-round endeavor. It's just one of those things that for 12 months a year, there's some type of storyline. Whether it's the actual season, draft season, and free agency, and then you get into your mini camps, and even during this lull, um, between mini camps and training camp, you have a lot of topics of conversation because the NFL has expanded into its off-season coverage, and the way it's featured with these documentaries, whether it's the off-season Hard Knocks for the first time or Receiver on Netflix. There's something to talk about with all those things.
I was asked, I think it was Friday afternoon, but it may have been Thursday, but I was asked by someone with Hard Knocks now going preseason, training camp, midseason, shows like Receiver, is there danger of being too much exposure to the NFL? And I'm going to tell you what I said, and then I'd love for you to disagree or agree. I don't like Hard Knocks in this offseason because I think it has become too vanilla. I think, again, I'm a big fan of the Hard Knocks genre and the way that they used to do it, but it has become so vanilla and given teams, in my opinion, too much control that they're in danger of killing this. But as long as they keep the content good, I don't think you can. I love it. I love Hard Knocks. I just when I'm sitting there and you're thinking, all right. I mean, I've been around long enough. All right, the team edited that. The team changed that. Then I don't want to watch anymore. I don't think that they can. I don't think that it can be killed other than by the NFL. Excuse me. I don't think anyone other than the NFL can kill it. And the more they make it vanilla, the more I think they hurt their product. I'd love your thoughts.
Well, I do agree. I think that you've seen in terms of your typical Hard Knocks, your training camp yearly one, it's been a little bit more cookie cutter in recent years. I think that you're getting less of the personality you might have seen in the past, less of the kind of fun or off the beaten path storylines. It's a little bit more corporate or a little bit more, like you said, the team's looking for uniformity or, so that they don't show too much. I think that could be an issue. Part of me thinks that maybe that's why they tried to expand the series twice, or they have expanded it. The in-season Hard Knocks. Now, this year's going to be the first time ever following around an entire division worth of teams. Obviously, the Giants right now are the subject of the first off-season Hard Knocks ever, so they're trying to do some different things with the franchise. Um, I've wondered that too, if there's a saturation point for some of that content, if it becomes too vanilla, like you said. But right now, they haven't hit that point, and they haven't really shown signs of worrying about that, or because it hasn't stopped them from, going in and trying new things there. So I do agree. I think that there's, you worry that it's going to become too generic at some point. Right now, I guess they're figuring that out though. They're trying to see what works and what doesn't.
All right. Now let's turn to Raiders specific. The series receiver is out. And in the
Hmm.
interest of full disclosure, I have not seen it yet. I have literally been working. I'm supposed to be taking a break and I'm working way too much. But the receiver's out. And in there, Davante talked about signing off on the change to Jimmy Garoppolo. This is not news. We talked about it when it happened that he was fine with it. I think people are making it more than what it is. Uh, I don't know who thinks the Raiders would go with a rookie and not talk to the best receiver in the NFL and Davante Adams. That doesn't make sense to me. I'm shocked at how big of attention it's getting in light of we talked about it already. Are you surprised at how much run that's getting?
No, because it's a little bit of a off-season lull, and there's a potential juicy storyline there. So I'm not surprised at the amount of attention it's getting. I do think, there's two ways to look at it. The first thing is the shorter quote where he says, "I signed off on that," could be interpreted multiple ways. Like you said, when you have a player of his caliber, and he's that important to the franchise, and you want him to be around, you want him to be a leader, you do have to, I think, go to him at some point and say, "Hey, we're thinking of making this change. What do you think, or how do you feel about it?" I think that's just something that's kind of courtesy that's given to anybody of that status around the NFL that plays the receiver position. The second quote where he says, "I love Jimmy. He's a great guy, but something had to happen in order for us to have a chance down the stretch and for me to remain a Raider, in all honesty." That's the one that people are sort of interpreting as he went to management, or went to Antonio Pierce and said, "There needs to be a change. We need to see what's working here." Um, yeah, like he kind of forced the issue. I don't know if that's a fair, you know, way to to kind of contextualize that, and to perceive that, because we don't exactly know what went on behind the scenes. It could have been Antonio Pierce going to him and saying, "Listen, we want you around. We want your part here," you know, and weighing his thoughts on the quarterback position thing. Um, we all knew. We talked about it last year before the season. We talked about it during the season. We talked about it when he got hurt and benched and all that stuff. That Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't a long-term thing for the Raiders. He was a guy that was supposed to be, a bridge quarterback option. Obviously, they hoped he would play better than he did and stayed healthier than he did. But he wasn't a long-term thing. So I think that played into whatever conversations happened with Antonio Pierce and Davante Adams, looking like, "Hey, this guy's not the future. We're struggling right now. What's the best move we can make for the future of the franchise, for your future with the team?" And I think that was to give the rookie kid a shot. And I think that, we've talked. I've said this on here before. We've talked about it. That I think that how this year goes with the quarterbacks, and how the Raiders' process is for whoever their starter is in 2025, probably plays a role in Davante Adams, whether he stays around long term or looks to go elsewhere for the last couple of seasons of his career. Because you got to figure, this is a guy that hasn't won a ring. He's been close with the Packers. So if he feels they're on the right track in Vegas, and they have, a quarterback, if Aiden O'Connell looks like he's a future guy, I think he sticks around. I think he tries to see that through. If they struggle and they don't have, an option coming in 2025, maybe that's when you see him say, "Is there a way out?" That's just
Yeah,
me theorizing. I'm not
no,
saying reporting anything yet.
as you know, I'm the one that broke the story when Josh got fired. When Derek got traded, he wasn't going anywhere. I'm the one that broke the story that when McDaniels got fired and all that, he wanted to remain a Raider. I think that is, and we're going to get into more of this in a minute. But when he makes comments like, something had to change in order for me to remain a Raider, those kind of comments, I don't think it's his intention to cause drama. In fact, I know it's not. I have a great respect for Davante and how he handles his business. But when you make those kind of open end statements, that allows people to speculate. I'm not blaming Davante for any of it. I'm trying to put it in perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I don't think he deserves any disdain for what happened with Jimmy. He did not throw Jimmy under the bus. That's not truthful. That's not the way that Davante Adams rolls, by the way. So I didn't have a problem with that. All right, so let's go to the next part. Aaron Rodgers comes out and says, can't wait to play with him again. Now, I'm going to make a couple of statements here. Those are legitimate, newsworthy quotes. It is what it is. Davante, to me, and in my reporting, and it went viral when I reported it, has made it clear. I want to be a Raider. I'm here. I'm a Raider. Nobody's made that more clear in this press corps than me. But it is something still germane to report about because this is a elite Hall of Fame quarterback that says, hey, I can't wait to play with him. It's definitive of it's going to happen. We know how close they are. Let me read you an email I got. This comes to us from a guy named Jefferson in Texas. I can't find the name of the city. Hondo, been a Raiders fan my whole life. I'm from California. I was born in California. My dad was in the military. We came out here and never left, but have never stopped being a Raider fan. I thought it fascinating what Aaron Rodgers said, and it was so definitive, like he knew it was going to happen. I don't understand why people act like that's a big deal. If you watched Receiver, you saw how close he and Davante were and spent so many days together. I don't think it's wrong to wonder about at some point, could Davante say enough's enough? I just don't get all the people being mad at reports that Aaron said it. I agree with the guy. I agree with that email I just read you. I don't when he makes those definitive statements and it's very clear how close they are, that's something of all right, you keep your eye on that. Am I right?
Without a doubt. And I think that Aaron Rodgers has a way of anything he says has a tendency to go viral and get dissected and talked about. And I think, like you said, with the history that those two have, the friendship they have, the connection they have, it's definitely something to pay attention to, because another thing is we don't know how many years left Aaron Rodgers will play. We're assuming, a guy is going to be, 41. He doesn't have a lot of football left in him. The Jets are hoping that the football he does have left, a couple seasons, whatever, he's still the Aaron Rodgers we saw. But you think, this is a guy who wants to capitalize on the end of his career. Does he really push the Jets for a trade or push Davante behind the scenes? The Jets are desperate to win. They are desperate to be in the playoffs again. They're desperate to be relevant and be a factor. Does that make them really push for a trade? There is definitely, to me, I think it's one of those things that there's always offseason speculation and different things. And I know there were also the comments. Davante appeared in the Kay Adams show, and she asked about, would he ever play again in Green Bay or things like that. So there's always those type of hypothetical, open-ended questions going on. But I do think when Aaron Rodgers says it, and he says, I'm trying to get him, I'm recruiting him, I'm trying to bring him in, that's worth taking note of. I do think.
Or when he says, quote, yeah, I can't wait to play with him again.
Right,
unquote.
Exactly.
That's a legitimate quote. That is a legit. It's not a, boy, I hope to play with him again.
And we know Aaron loves to kind of tweak the media and get them where they go nuts over things he says, but still, you have to talk about that and you have to take it seriously.
All right. I'm going to go to a whole side of this story so again, I want to make it clear. I stand by my reporting. He wants to be here. He's not looking for a trade. This is just now. I think it's time that you start keeping track of some of this, start keeping some receipts. So let me give you an angle that nobody's talking about other than us right here, right now. Let's assume that Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew fall on their face. You're going to have an incredibly talented team with an expanded salary cap, with a big opportunity. You could see the Raiders at Aaron Rodgers coming here. At the end of his career, it doesn't make a lot of sense because he's not going to be here a long time. But this Raiders team is loaded, and if it turns out that O'Connell and Minshew aren't the guys, I 100% believe, and I'm not guessing, I sincerely believe, and I think I have reason to, Aaron would love to come to Vegas and play with Davante. Your thoughts on that? Is that an angle people aren't talking about? They're all looking at Davante getting traded. What about Aaron being traded here?
It is an angle that doesn't get talked about a lot with those comments. I mean, he's a West Coast guy. He's from California, so he's played out that way, grew up out that way, and it could be a situation where, let's say simultaneously while Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell are showing this season that they're not the franchise guys for the Raiders. The Jets struggle again. They go 8-9 or 9-8 or something like that. They're in the middle of the pack and they miss the playoffs, or they make the playoffs and don't do anything. Does Aaron Rodgers say, I want to stick around here? Or does he say, this is different. I'm looking to maximize the last year or two of my career. Where can I do that? And the Raiders give him a better opportunity to do that. It's interesting. There's excuse me. There's nothing you can put past Aaron Rodgers, I think, at this point, with everything he's kind of done and how, he marches to the beat of his own drum, to put it mildly. Nothing would surprise me with that dude. I mean, it is an interesting kind of counterpoint to come up with that you've come up with, because that's not really talked about. Everyone's talking about it going one way as opposed to potentially the other.
Yeah, fascinating to me. All right, I want to turn to a couple other comments that I think are really germane. We've talked about it at length on this show. The NFL is the ratings hog of all sports. No one compares. No one. And one league that's going backwards is the NBA. Yet they still sign some massive media rights deals where now there's a lot of speculation, because Roger Goodell didn't kill it, that he may want some more money for the NFL after the NBA deals. Now, if you're a TNT or you're a media entity that doesn't have the NFL, what better way to crush your competition who do have the NFL than to up the cost of the leagues that aren't as popular, so that the NFL, which is a huge fat trough, says, okay, we want more. At some point, it's how much is going to force everybody out. This is fascinating to me. It's a game of chess, and I can see other media entities kind of trying to stick it to their competition who have the NFL and they don't.
To me, I mean, you look at, I think the success of the NFL and the way it generates money, and I think the way that these other leagues, like you said, have signed these big deals while the NFL remains king. That's the reason why the NFL, I think, part of the reason why they pursue all these different streaming contracts and other, media formats, because they can. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of people complaining, like, oh, the NFL's on Netflix and Amazon and Peacock and all these paid for services and all these different things. But the reason they do it is because they can. They know that they are going to bring in subscribers. They know that they're going to have money coming in from those deals. They know the coffers will be filled. So I think if you're Roger Goodell, you're sitting back and you're saying, listen, the NBA secured these three broadcasting either companies or streaming services with Amazon. They got billions of dollars worth of deals. What are we going to get? We're going to secure ungodly amounts of money. So I do think that it bodes well for the next round of NFL TV negotiations. They're going to be putting up some crazy numbers.
It's going to be insane. All right, my friend, I want you to think about this one. The next time we talk, we're going to literally be just hours from the start of training camp. And we're going to dig in next time that you're on training camp. It's going to be all training camp specific. I can't wait to have it. Tell everybody where to find you on X.
Sure, you can find me on X, Twitter, whatever. Excuse me, whatever you call it. At Matt Hladik 919, at MATTHLADIK 919. And it's getting closer to the season, so should be a lot of fun over these next few weeks.
Absolutely. Give them those follows, everybody, and interact with them. And we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks, Matt.